Today on Aging Untold, working past retirement, financial necessity, or personal purpose.
You shouldn't have to work until you drop. That's not what anybody should have to do. But you shouldn't be put out to pasture either.
We examine why older Americans keep clocking in long after retirement age. Plus, sell it or keep it.
Don't panic sell. Don't call immediately to list the home. You've got to have a plan on how you're going to handle dealing with the whole transition.
We'll give you some tips on navigating whether to keep or let go of the family home. And later, at his age, he's not our typical EMT.
I just enjoy this type of work because I enjoy helping people.
Hear how a former Navy corpsman is putting decades-old skills to work and saving lives. Experts with advice and solutions. You're watching Aging Untold with Aging Well Coach Catherine Ambrose, gerontologist Sam Craddock, aging expert Amy O'Rourke, and board-certified physician Dr. Ray Rogers. We're all getting older. It's about time we talked about it.
Welcome to Aging Untold. More and more older adults are either staying in the workforce or returning to it. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, in 2024, about 1 in 4 U.S. workers was age 55 or older, and roughly 1 in 5 people aged 65 and over were still participating in the labor force. Sam, what's driving more and more seniors back to work?
Money. They're going back to work because they're realizing that they didn't save enough or they didn't have enough, and the expenses and the costs are just increasing more and more and more. And they're unfortunately oftentimes having to go back to work. I always like to look at it like this. Retirement's new. Retirement didn't exist. It's a fairly new concept. 1935 is when Social Security was enacted, and that's when we really started thinking that retirement was a goal. It used to be prior to that, we would work and maybe we had a laborious job, but we became the mentors. We became the teachers as we aged, and we taught the younger folks how to do those laborious jobs. So, retirement, you shouldn't have to work until you drop. That's not what anybody should have to do. But you shouldn't be put out to pasture either. I think there's a lot of good running at retirement age. You got a few races left.
When we used to do that, when we used to teach people afterwards, were they still getting paid? Because right now, this fixed income, it's very fixed, but inflation is very real. It's really an imbalance for a lot of people. Now, some people have calculated and estimated and they're doing well financially, and they just don't want to stay home. They're retiring from what they were used to doing, but they're moving on to a new passion.
Sure. And yeah, they would move into those mentoring positions, and they were still paid positions. They still contributed to society, and the young people got to learn from the elders, which is truly what we're there for. We're there to train up and teach that next generation.
Mm-hmm. I remember I was at an event, and I was not at the height of my career, but kind of winding it down. And I was asked by this woman that I know, she said, "Are you still working?" And I said, "Why are you asking that?" Like, I was just kind of put off by it, like, why wouldn't I? And I think about the judgment people have on what people do. So I've had people in my life that have worked, 20 years for the military or for a company and then decided they were going to do something else. I have another friend of mine who worked really, really hard. She retired at 55. And now she's volunteering just as hard as she was working. And people have judged her for that. But I like to think, do it on your own terms. Do it on your own terms. If you leave a high-powered job and you want to lay low for a little bit, lay low. Let your body kind of adjust to a new thing. But if you want to work again, let's let go of all the judgment.
I agree.
Well, it's very difficult to re-enter the workforce if you've left it. And so sometimes people will say, we retired too early. And then it's really difficult to figure out, well, I don't know how I can do anything that would actually make money.
There's a thing called age discrimination also.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there
age
is.
Discrimination.
Absolutely, it exists.
And so if you want to continue meaningful income, you might try to stay in there. Now, this is so controversial because people will really tap back and say, wait a minute, I hated my job. It was literally killing me. Okay, well, if it's a job you hate, leave it. is there something else you would enjoy doing? It might be a different work altogether. It might be volunteering, but it's more about today, I think, rewire versus retire.
You know, we can't discount that sadly we have positioned ourselves in a place where you have to work as long as you can. Even many people that have had good careers and saved and made a lot of money, the expenses of aging are just growing and growing and growing. Home care is expensive, assisted living is expensive, moving is expensive. All of those things add up. And if you're not, you know, I have a lady that's been hitting me up to come back to work, and she's in her 80s, she's in her advanced 80s, and she's wanting to come back as a caregiver so she can pay her property taxes.
Right.
You know, and that to me is just, why do we have somebody that's on the south side of 90 that's still having to worry about whether or not they can do something for gainful employment?
Or you have the person that's 90 that I had, and she was working as a nursing aide, and she loved it.
Yeah.
So there's just all kinds of different ways to be retired.
So really, it all comes down to us and what you can do to be creative and have flexibility and create the kind of retirement or continued career that you want to have.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
So we're about solutions. We're also about empowerment. This is Aging Untold, and we'll be right back.
Still ahead,
I just can't fail. This is my baby.
a look at why drugstores are leaving communities and the potential risks if more shut down. But first,
If you want to stay in your own home, you need to look at it, put some numbers down, and see if that's reality for you.
we'll show you how to avoid seller's remorse and ease family tensions around selling the family home.
Bringing up the idea of selling the family home is often one of the toughest conversations a family can have. It can spark guilt, grief, relief, and even anger for parents and adult children. With baby boomers now the largest group of sellers, reasons vary from moving closer to family, paying medical bills, or just downsizing. Amy, I want to ask you, how do we handle those emotions while setting realistic expectations? But let me just say first, this is a big step. Exiting the real estate market and dealing with all the things that you own, and also what other people are going to chime in to say, because sometimes adult kids that grew up in that home, they have a lot of feelings and emotions tied into it, like, oh my gosh, you're going to sell our home. Others are completely relieved. And even when they never lived there, it's probably the place they were coming home to for the holidays and all of that. So my first tip is don't panic sell. Don't call immediately to list the home. You've got to have a plan on how you're going to handle dealing with the whole transition. There's always time to get the best price and the best terms in real estate. There really is. There's no reason to sell straight to a cash investor or think that it's a fire sale and you got to sell too cheap.
Well, the statistics are 85% of older adults want to stay in their own home. And so to your point, if you want to stay in your own home, you need to look at it, put some numbers down and see if that's reality for you.
right,
Do that first, like way early on, when you're 50, when you're 60, do that first, because if you really want to make it a reality, then you need to know if you can't, what are you going to do? And so I would encourage people to look at what their investments are, if they have any, if they have a home, what they want to do, and give the family the idea of how they plan on selling the home. And then if you can afford a therapist, get one, because it's so much grief.
totally. And that's what the families are dealing with, and that's what you're dealing with. And I tell everybody, if you're going to stay in your home, that's a whole huge astronomical expense and things that we definitely need to tackle in a different time. But that selling is, yes, get a plan, Catherine, but I say you need to have somebody help you make that plan, and it needs to be somebody that's familiar with the aged community and selling at the same time.
Right. It's not, I'm sorry to my own industry. It's not just your regular everyday real estate agent.
It's not.
It needs to be someone that's very experienced in older adult transitions and someone that has probably a lot of training, and they've gone out there and they've gotten training within real estate but also outside of real estate, and they're experts at honoring the timeline and helping people weigh all these things out.
I think you have to also look at why are we having to move? Are we moving because we're needing to downsize and this is something we need to do? Then we need to have that person involved in it because there are memories. Or are we moving because I've lost a spouse or there's mental decline, dementia, and there's a whole other thing going on? And then how does the family, the children, help out? Or, my parents are in their home that I grew up in, and we're not going to let them sell that.
Yeah.
We'll buy it
You
and
have a great
accommodate it. But so I just think you have to know why.
All situations are different. So a lot of downsizers, say 75 and older, that are married, most of the time it's the wife that wants to move. It's like, we're going to do this together, buddy. You're going to help. You're not going to leave me to handle all this. So moving together and getting that big, overwhelming stress over, a lot of times that's what it is. Usually the men don't initiate it unless they're doing it for their wife, because their wife has so many physical or cognitive issues that he's doing it because he loves her.
Coming up,
The biggest gratification I get when a patient that I've dealt with or a relative walks up to me and personally thanks me, for help. I'm getting a little teary here, but
how this Vermont man is making a difference in his community. But first, drugstore closures on the rise stir customers' concerns about getting critical medications.
Panicked, very panicked, because of being a senior citizen and having that availability.
We'll tell you why a growing number of pharmacies are closing and the risk it poses for you.
Pharmacies are lifelines for patients, yet across the country, family-owned and big drugstore chains are struggling, shrinking their footprints or shutting down altogether. A study from Ohio State found that residents of nearly half the nation's counties live in a pharmacy desert with no drugstore within a 10-mile radius. Kristen Crowley reveals why more drugstores are closing and some potential solutions for communities without one.
I've lived here most of my life.
For Leota Coates and Teresa Gorman, there's no place like Howard, Kansas.
You like living here.
Yes, I do.
This is home.
This is my home.
But these neighbors, both in their 70s, worry they might not be able to call it that forever.
What would happen if you couldn't get the medications you needed?
I wouldn't be here. No, she wouldn't.
Because they fear it's only a matter of time until the town can no longer support their health needs.
If Batson's didn't exist, how would you get your medications?
I would have to drive at least 100 miles round trip.
You see, Batson's drugstore is not just the only pharmacy in Howard, but in the entire county. It's a half-mile walk from Leota and Teresa's homes, but they worry it could soon be forced to shutter.
How do you feel about that?
Panicked, very panicked.
I buy as cheap as I can. I don't know what else to change.
Are you concerned that Howard could one day be a pharmacy desert?
I will do everything I can to make it not be.
Research out of Ohio State University says pharmacy deserts are a growing problem nationwide. Those deserts can lead to healthcare issues in communities. And it's not just tied to prescriptions. They offer critical services like vaccinations and screenings.
This is becoming a public health crisis for millions of patients who don't have access to a pharmacy.
Douglas Hoy is the CEO of the National Community Pharmacists Association. He says there are a number of reasons for the increase in pharmacy deserts, like staffing shortages, even theft. But the biggest factor,
the low payment from PBM insurance companies to pharmacies.
Pharmacy benefit managers were created decades ago to process prescription claims, but their role has evolved over time.
They now determine how much the pharmacy gets paid, how much the patient pays.
Julie says she can't help but feel like her pharmacy is getting a death sentence.
It's difficult with the PBMs. 80% of my prescriptions are under what it costs me to dispense.
A recent Federal Trade Commission report called PBMs powerful middlemen inflating drug costs and squeezing Main Street pharmacies. The national group representing America's PBMs declined to speak on camera, but said in a statement the FTC report falls far short of being a definitive, fact-based assessment of PBMs or the prescription drug market. But it's not just the independents. Some retail chain pharmacies say they're feeling the squeeze too. Walgreens, for example, has closed hundreds of stores in recent years. CVS and Rite Aid have also announced widespread closures and layoffs.
I just can't fail. This is my baby.
While it's not the same offerings as brick and mortar pharmacies, experts say some solutions include mobile pharmacies, telehealth, and remote pharmacy services. In Kansas City, I'm Kristen Crowley.
The fact that she's having to sell prescriptions for less than what she's paying is unbelievable.
This is what's happening in the medical community across the board. You see, we call them the mom and pop stores. You don't have the mom and pops even in medicine anymore. You have the big corporations coming to take over because the insurance reimbursement is not what it's costing. You have to see more patients. You get less reimbursement, and this is across the board in medicine. That's what you're seeing.
I mean, what do you do when you end up with a pharmacy desert? Yeah, you can get your prescriptions by mail, but who are you talking to? Who are you consulting with? And that on its own, we should never isolate people from needed services.
Right. It just seems like big money and bureaucracy is getting involved with the people that are actually doing the work and getting between the people that want to do good work and the people that are there to serve. And as far as those ladies in Howard, kind of changing the subject a little bit, is that's the challenge in being in a very small community, and perhaps think about living where services are.
No, Catherine, I disagree.
Okay.
Even where we are in a big city, I see so many mom and pop pharmacies that are shutting down. It is the same situation regardless of the size.
Yeah, it's not just mom and pop, Rite Aid and CVS.
I
They're
totally
closing
hear
them.
you. The thing is, though, is if you're in a city, there are some other options, and that still
Yeah,
needs to
you
be
don't have
addressed.
enough.
But if you're in Howard, Kansas, there's nothing.
No, what I see is rural communities, smaller communities, have always struggled for health care. Find somebody to help, somebody at the home care company that could help talk to you, to help you in this desert issue.
Next,
It's routine to me now.
we introduce you to the seasoned veteran coming to the rescue for community members in need.
Earlier, we talked about why some seniors are going back into the workforce. Well, we want to introduce you to one man who did just that. Joe Carroll in Vermont shows us how Ed Diaz is using training he received in his 20s to help save lives in his 70s.
Like so many rescue squads in Vermont,
This is where I am most of the time.
Wallingford relies on volunteers to fill the ranks. And at 79, Ed Diaz is the oldest to go out on calls.
This is what we basically use in CPR. I just enjoy this type of work.
Just before the pandemic, Ed approached Eric Davenport about joining Wallingford Rescue.
First reaction was he was very interested.
And he said, asked me how old I was and all that.
But I will admit, I kind of went, if he was 20 years younger, that would be great.
Me too. But I'll unlatch that and pull it out until it hooks. I think I finally impressed upon him that I was serious.
Very serious.
Of the 242 calls they've had, Ed's been on 197 of them.
It's routine to me now.
The super senior medical training goes back to his native California.
This is me right here.
In the 60s, he was a Navy corpsman, similar to an Army medic. After a stint in the Navy, Ed became an ambulance driver.
I said, this is the skinny little guy that I met in 1967 out in Palo Alto, California.
That's where he met a nurse and his future wife, Trudy, a native Vermonter.
But I missed the change of season terribly, and I transplanted him back here.
They raised a family, and Ed had various jobs in the Green Mountains. It was when a neighbor needed medical care and rescue showed up that Ed's memories of helping people came back.
Were you concerned about his age?
No. I don't think about age. I think about what we're able to do and how well we're able to do it.
The biggest gratification I get when a patient that I've dealt with or a relative walks up to me and personally thanks me, for help. I'm getting a little teary here, but that tells me I'm doing a good job and it's well worth what I'm doing.
Now that would close. I'll probably just keep going until I can't do it anymore, whatever that age is. The good Lord will tell me when I need to stop.
I love how his wife said, I don't think about age, just what we're able to do for how long we can do it.
Right. Can you imagine being the ill person and the paramedic rolls up and he's trumped you in age by 20 or 30 years? But at that point, you're needing help. You're thanking him, not judging him.
I like like she said, in terms of not thinking about age, just reminds me not looking in that mirror and just thinking about how my body can function. I can function, I have balance, I have mobility, the important things.
And he still imparting his knowledge and his skill set off onto these people, and how cool is that?
Volunteer department, and I love the guy that was interviewing and we're talking to him about coming on board and how honest he was. He's looking at him like, is this it? And the guy said, well, you're 20 years younger too, like 20 years older too. Like, he just put it back on him.
Yeah.
And he hired him, and I love that. He was honest about his reservations, did it anyway, and 197 trips, is that what he said?
Yeah.
He's been on? Yeah.
Absolutely.
We really have a population challenge in terms of not having enough workers, and so him getting into that volunteer position and being purposeful gives him joy, and it really fills a need.
Think about this. How many people can afford, younger people could afford to volunteer on 197 runs,
right,
and not draw a paycheck? So a perfect scenario and a perfect situation for him to be able to come in and give his time and do that.
We're all getting older, and it's about time we talk about it. Until next time on Aging Untold.
On the next Aging Untold, what do you do as a caretaker if your loved one wants help dying?
We have a problem with mortality. We really do.
We go in depth on the controversial right to die decision and what it can mean for a divided family.